The latest data we have collected shows that 8 members of the National Police were killed and 8 wounded in a region of Amalfi, Antioquia, while on a mission to eradicate coca leaf crops. The death toll in Cali has now risen to 5, with 14 wounded, all civilians, as far as I'm aware.
احنا بدنا وقف الحرب على غزة، احنا بدناش نهاجر، 22 شهر، بكفي موت، بكفي دمار، بكفي يا عالم تطلعوا فينا، بكفي.
فقدنا أكثر من 10% من السكان، فقدنا 85% من المباني والمنشآت، فقدنا الكثير من معالم الثقافة والتاريخ. اليوم غزة مهددة بشكل كامل بالتدمير. هذا المشهد يجب أن يتم تجنيب أبناء شعبنا الفلسطيني من تداعيات.
बारूद का ये जो पटाखे वगैरह बनाते हैं उसका ये गोदाम है, काफ़ी पुराना है। इससे पहले बराबर वाली बिल्डिंग में था, अब ये यहाँ आ गया है, तो वही उसका साउंड है सारे में। अभी भी आपके सामने पटाखों की आवाज़ें आ रही हैं, और जो ब्लास्ट हुआ था यके बाद दीगरे 2 ब्लास्ट हुए थे विदिन सेकंड के फासले से, तो वो धमाके की आवाज़ें और पूरा शहर यहाँ जमा है।
At least 600 CDC employees are being laid off, according to union officials. The termination notices were sent out earlier this week, as first reported by the Washington Post. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention employees who wish to remain anonymous tell the Post the move adds to frustration within the agency after a gunman opened fire at CDC headquarters in Atlanta this month, killing a police officer. Investigators say evidence from the shooter's home showed he opposed COVID-19 vaccines. Hundreds of current and former employees at the Department of Health and Human Services signed a letter accusing HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. of putting lives at risk, eliminating public health programs, and, quote, repeatedly spreading misinformation. The letter claims the August 8th shooting at CDC headquarters was not random and blamed growing public mistrust on politicized rhetoric, turning trusted experts into targets of villainization and now violence. The AP reports the cuts impact around 100 people working in violence prevention, a move criticized by some employees in the wake of the shooting. The Post also reports the layoffs impact employees involved in equal employment opportunity and freedom of information. So far, HHS has not commented or released details on the latest round of cuts.
Spain is protesting against the government over the mishandling of raging wildfires in the country. In northern Spain, hundreds of protesters took to the streets holding placards and posters decrying the government for its handling of the raging wildfires. The citizens, who are reeling from the devastation of the worst fires in 20 years, have accused the ruling Popular Party of taking inadequate action.
We show solidarity and are thankful to the national and foreign personnel in Galicia who are risking their lives fighting fires. But these workers cannot be precarious. The fire extinguishing services cannot be in private hands. They are in private hands in Galicia, in Castilla y León. They are in private hands, and this is an atrocity.
Están en manos privadas en Galicia, están en manos privadas en Castilla y León.
The 18 large wildfires are still raging through several regions of Spain. In the past few days, 3,400 troops from the army and 50 aircraft have been deployed to assist the firefighters in combating the blaze. An estimated 400,000 hectares has been gutted in the wildfires. This is the largest series of blaze on record since 2006. While conditions are beginning to improve, many have blamed agricultural policies like single crop farming for increasing the risk of wildfires.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is rallying the nation's militias and civilians to bolster the country's defense, announcing a nationwide enlistment drive this weekend amid escalating tensions with the United States. Speaking in Caracas before hundreds of soldiers and militia members, Maduro urged all Venezuelans to join the National Plan for Sovereignty and Peace. I have called for next Saturday and Sunday at military barracks, military units, central public squares, Bolivar squares, and at the headquarters of the 15,751 popular bases for integral defense, for a process of national enlistment of all militia forces and the entire Bolivarian national militia. The call-up comes as Washington has deployed U.S. Navy destroyers to the Caribbean, a move the Trump administration says is intended to curb drug trafficking. Maduro, however, framed the mobilization as part of a long-term defense strategy rather than a reactionary measure. I call on all militia men, militia women, reservists and all people who want to enlist and join the ranks of the Great Plan for Sovereignty and Peace. We have made the construction of a system not for a specific juncture. We have not built this for this juncture of threats and aggression where the empire has gone crazy. The U.S. government has tightened sanctions against Venezuela and placed a $50 million bounty on Maduro's arrest, accusing him of corruption and drug trafficking. Maduro insists the enlistment campaign reflects Venezuela's sovereignty and unity.
German prosecutors say a Ukrainian national suspected of coordinating the 2022 Nord Stream pipeline sabotage has been arrested in Italy. Germany's justice minister called the arrest an impressive investigative success in a case that's remained unsolved for nearly 3 years. Officials identified the suspect as Serhiy K. He was detained in Rimini on Wednesday and now faces extradition to Germany, where he's charged with sabotage and destruction of infrastructure. The Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines were hit by explosions in September 2022, triggering massive methane leaks under the Baltic Sea. The attack crippled 2 major gas routes, though by then Moscow had already shut off flows through Nord Stream 1, and Nord Stream 2 never went online after Germany suspended certification. Investigators say the operation was carried out using a rented yacht called the Andromeda, where divers allegedly planted explosives. Traces of those explosives were later found on board. Ukraine has consistently denied involvement, while Russia has accused the U.S., claims Washington dismisses. German prosecutors are now leading the only active case after Sweden and Denmark closed their probes. The explosions forced Europe to scramble for alternative energy supplies and expose the vulnerability of critical undersea infrastructure.
Shifting focus, Pakistan is calling on the United States to take responsibility for the arsenal that it left behind in Afghanistan after the 2021 withdrawal. And according to the report published in The Economist, Islamabad wants the U.S. to buy back the massive stockpile of American weapons that it claims are circulating in Afghanistan's black market. It argues that these weapons are used in fueling violence in Pakistan and threaten the national security, with the military spokesman saying that everything is available to the highest bidder in Afghanistan. Authorities in Pakistan claim that these American-made weapons were used in the deadly March 11 bombing of the Jafar Express train. According to a report by the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, around 250,000 firearms and more than 18,000 night vision systems were left behind by the United States after their withdrawal from the country in 2021. Over $7 billion in U.S.-supplied military equipment still in the country when the Taliban took control. In February, U.S. President Donald Trump called for the return of these military weapons. He said, and I'm quoting here, "We left billions, tens of billions of dollars worth of equipment behind, all the top-of-the-line stuff. I think we should get that equipment back." The Economist also reporting that Pakistan wants the U.S. to step up support with intelligence sharing and military equipment. And this includes armored vehicles and night vision goggles, tools considered vital for fighting groups like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP. In fact, Islamabad is stepping up cooperation with the West against a shared enemy, which is the Islamic State Khorasan province, ISKP, with an estimated 4,000 to 6,000 fighters, including Tajiks, Uzbeks, Turks. ISKP continues to stage attacks across Afghanistan and Pakistan and is seen as one of the world's most dangerous jihadist networks.
Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Quraj, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yahshua, Shalom. Right, we want to get into world news with commentary. Here's the commentary. Speaking on the next clip we're going to play, it says Jordan's crown prince Hussein bin Abdullah announced the reinstatement of mandatory military service for men in August 2025, which is set to begin in February 2026. The program revives a national service that was suspended in 1991. All right, details of the new conscription program. Start date and cohort. The first cohort will begin service in February 2026. It will consist of 6,000 men who turn 18 by January 1st, 2026. Expansion. Following the first round, the number of conscripts will increase to 10,000 in subsequent rounds, with the goal of gradually accommodating the majority of eligible youth in the coming years. Duration. The service includes 3 months of military training. Compensation. We don't care about compensation. Selection. The first participants will be chosen through an electronic statistical draw to ensure fairness and transparency. Like, I want to be pulled. You're making me to go to this military conscription. I just want to be pulled, right? Exemptions will be granted for sole sons or those deemed medically unfit in accordance with the law. Penalty for evasion. Refusal to serve will be punishable by imprisonment ranging from 3 months to 1 year, followed by mandatory service. So after punishment, you're still going to have to serve mandatory service anyways. I guess we can read this too. Context for the decision. Strengthening national identity. According to the Crown Prince, the program is intended to strengthen national identity, instill discipline, and deepen the connection between young people and their homeland. The announcement comes amid heightened regional tensions, including controversial comments made by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regarding the concept of a Greater Israel. Yeah, that's stirring up the pot because they're over there saying that the lands that belong to us, they're going to take because they've been doing for a while, pretending to be us, and they're further trying to push that point by doing this red heifer sacrifice, which that's not according to the scriptures. Third temple, a physical building, not according to the scriptures, because the third temple is a spiritual house. And then the lands that were promised to us, going back to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that covenant the Lord said he set forever in the book of Psalms with those very same individuals. That land belongs to us. So he's taken this out of the scriptures, out of the Bible, and saying that we're going to force people out of these lands by way of war because the God of heaven promised us. Meanwhile, they can't tell you the name of the God of heaven. All right, Hashem. And I don't think I've ever heard him even say Hashem, but I might be wrong. Just saying I haven't heard. But the point being, the lands that are promised to us, they're attempting to take to justify their war and their genocide. And now, if they're gonna do that, that means they got to push all the way over into Africa. They got to push across Saudi Arabia. I believe there's another place over there. No, not Yemen and Oman. That's further down. But there's a place, I forget what it's called, but there's a little small place there they have to take over. Then up the Euphrates, all those areas there, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, okay? That small portion, of southern Turkey, all right? Gaza, West Bank. They're gonna war with everybody in this area in order to fulfill a prophecy that's not prophesied about them. So that's stirring up the pot, and that whole movement is called the Greater Israel. We showed that the other day when we talked about it, okay? So it says, let me go back. So I'm glad I read down. It says, including controversial comments made by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu regarding the concept of a greater Israel. While officials stated the program has been in development for over a year, analysts linked the timing to regional instability. Employment. Some experts have also noted that a limited conscription program for unemployed men was temporarily adopted in 2020 to address high unemployment, suggesting economic factors may also play a role. Okay, and what immediately what hit me is just the Lord once again stirring up the third woe. Okay, that pot for the third woe. That's why we had Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the natural heathens, the heathen nations. Okay, prepare war. Okay, make it ready. Let's see what the word for is prepare. Kodash, really? That's interesting. Consecrate, sanctify. Okay, prepare, dedicate. Okay, set apart. Yeah, set yourselves aside. Dedicate yourselves for what? Malkama, for war. All right, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And this is what all the nations are in tune with. Okay, telling their people about what's going on and telling them to prepare. And while they're preparing, they're doing military drills and things of that nature. Because eventually, it said, I believe it's in the book of Jeremiah, all right, to come against Babylon. That's what it's ultimately for against Babylon. But there is going to be a major war that's going to take place in the so-called Middle East over there in that portion of Asia. Okay, so it says, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Yeah, we need to issue this military conscription because more men need to get ready, especially with what Big Ear Benji has been talking about. So these people are prepared for the Israelis, or starting to prepare for the Israelis, because they see, it's not like people are blind. There's news stations all over the world. They see what the greater Israel is about, and like, hold on. Well, greater Israel is cutting into my territory. What are we're not with what you're talking about, okay? And those people aren't the real Israelites anyways. But let me make this point. Even if they were the real Israelites, okay, it goes to show you the nations don't serve the God of the Bible, because they're not going to be with someone taking over their land. Oh, yeah, the God of the Bible, your God, promised that land to you. Well, we're living in this land, so we're going to have to go to war. They're not just going to give it up. Did the Canaanites give up the land when we got it back in the days under Joshua? No. They went to war and they lost because the Lord promised those lands to us, man. The only time we lost when we were going off, okay? But other than that, when the Lord told us to go, we went and we conquered. So the nations are not just going to give up their land because Benjamin Netanyahu was setting up a map talking about greater Israel, which is a prophecy that has nothing to do with them. But the world doesn't know that. Maybe the higher ups, of course, but the world doesn't know. We understand through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah. So it says, assemble yourselves to come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause the mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened. Those Gentiles that he read up above. These are the heathens, the other nations. And come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Yahweh Shaphat in the Hebrew. Okay, there's Shaphat. Shaphat means the judge. Yahweh, straightforward. We understand that Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, meaning he exists. All right, so right here, right, Yahweh has judged, right, because Shaphat means to judge. So to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about, right down in the so-called Middle East, where everybody's going to come fight it. Okay, the Lord is going to deliver them into the hands of Yahweh Shah. He's going to destroy them. Okay, and that's going to take place after Babylon the Great is destroyed, which is here in the west. Okay, it says, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. All right, and that's where the war is going to take place. Okay, now there's more news I want to play, and there's something else I want to talk about, so we're going to continue on from here. Right.
Now let's go to Jordan, where the new crown prince says there's a patriotic move. The kingdom, the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, is bringing back military conscription after 34 years. This is to empower the region's youth, especially in Jordan, to face threats from Israel and beyond. Listen in.
In the heart of Jordan, a cold wind of history is returning. The country is bringing back compulsory military service for the first time in over 3 decades. The decision comes not in isolation, but in the shadow of escalating words from Israeli leaders, words that reach beyond borders, reviving the notion of a greater Israel. The Israeli vision that claims parts of Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and even Egypt in its most extreme form, and extends far beyond the occupied West Bank and Gaza. For Jordan, these words are not rhetoric. They are a direct threat. A nation that already shares a long, fragile border with Israel is now calling on its youth to be ready. The new national service program will begin with 6,000 recruits split into groups, each undergoing intensive 3-month training during which phones will be banned. But beyond the drill grounds, this is also a symbol, a move to unite a restless population, to channel unemployed youth into service, and to signal resolve. Jordan is preparing its young men for an era where maps are again being questioned and borders, once again, feel fragile. Bureau Report, Vion, World is One.
If you're planning to visit the US anytime soon, our next story is for you. Because Donald Trump's immigration crackdown just went into overdrive. The Trump administration has made an announcement. It is reviewing more than 55 million visa holders. That's everyone who holds a visa, 55 million. It could be to enter, to work, or to live in the US, any kind of visa. US officials are reviewing their records. And you can guess why. They're looking for potential violations. Again, it could be anything from staying past visa time frame to criminal activity to whatever the US deems a threat to public safety. If any of these indicators are found, the visa holder will be deported. It's a major move and hardly the only one of its kind. Here's a report.
We will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
Since U.S. President Donald Trump came to power, he has launched a war on foreigners on the American soil. He has focused on stricter requirements for visa applicants, deportation of illegal migrants, or student and visitor exchange visa holders. Since his inauguration, the State Department has revoked more than twice as many visas as during the same time period last year. But now, his crackdown just hit the accelerator. The Trump administration is now reviewing the records of all U.S. visa holders. There are more than 55 million of them, including about 13 million green card holders, about 4 million people on temporary visas, and many others with multiple entry tourist visas. Their records are being vetted. Why is that? Because the Trump administration wants to sift out any possible violation, like staying past the authorized time frame, any record of criminal activity, threats to public safety. If any such information is found, the visa will be revoked. And if the visa holder is in the U.S., they will be deported. The U.S. says that this will be a continuous vetting process. Apparently, the reviews will include new tools for data collection on the past, present, and future visa applicants. With privacy switches on smartphones turned off, while the holder's social media accounts, law enforcement, and immigration records are scoured through. There's anxiety and fear. People are even afraid to go to school or work for fear of being raided and arrested. And this is part of a much larger drive. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that the U.S. will also stop issuing worker visas for commercial truck drivers. This comes after last week's incident, when an Indian-origin truck driver was charged with killing 3 people on a highway in Florida while making an illegal U-turn. Previously, the administration also enforced stricter English proficiency requirements on truck drivers. Earlier this week, the State Department said that since Trump returned to the White House, it has revoked more than 6,000 student visas. This is mainly for overstays and violations of the law, from assault to driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. While these moves have sent shockwaves through the country, the Trump administration is not stopping here. On the ground, ICE, or the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is boosting operations. It is adding a new wave of agents.
I'm very happy to the fact that we are having so many applicants and they're not being deterred by what they kind of see going on out there. Kind of see a lot of the great arrests that we've been doing lately. And I think people want to make a difference.
But many of these additions will be civilians. The Pentagon is recruiting civilian employees to join a so-called volunteer force to aid ICE deportations. Selected employees will join the campaign. They will offer support to the operations, with duties like data entry, planning support, processing, and logistical support. People will not get to choose where they are deployed. Critics fear that this could spur a wave of deportation vigilantes. But Trump remains undeterred. He has set his eyes on one goal: securing the borders. The chaos that comes with it is simply collateral damage.
All right, now the American President Donald Trump's sweeping crime control measures have sparked massive protests throughout Washington, D.C. Demonstrators were seen marching across the city, gathering at major intersections and also waving signs and flags at busy traffic stops. Now, Trump declared a public safety emergency last week, saying a violent crime wave threatened the city. He also ordered for thousands of National Guard soldiers and federal agents to deploy across Washington. But the increased troop presence has triggered demonstrations. Residents are protesting against what they see as an extraordinary assertion of presidential power, one that has few precedents in the nation's capital. On Thursday, tensions intensified at the DC's Union Station, where protesters loudly heckled the American Vice President J.D. Vance and the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The new crackdown by the Trump administration has brought aggressive stop and frisk searches, federal patrols through neighborhoods, and confusing encounters as people were stopped without clear reasons. Meanwhile, city officials have challenged Trump's crime narrative by pointing to federal and local data. They say that the recent research shows that the violent crime has actually reduced significantly since it spiked in 2023. And this data contradicts the U.S. President's portrayal of Washington as beset by the ongoing violence and criminal activity.
Instead of chartering planes, Homeland Security may soon fly its own. A former immigration official says that could double the number of deportations. NBC News reports Secretary Kristi Noem is pushing to secure a new fleet for ICE. Sources tell NBC Noem wants Homeland Security to buy, own, and operate its aircraft. ICE hires planes as needed, partnering with commercial airlines through its Air Operations Program. Since taking office, President Trump has aimed to remove at least 1 million people living illegally in the U.S. each year. In the first 100 days of Trump's administration, ICE reported more than 120,000 arrests or removals. A former ICE chief of staff says chartering planes under the Biden administration allowed about 15,000 removals per month. To double that, ICE would need 30 more planes or to operate its own. ICE says a regular charter costs about $8,600 per flight hour. High-risk flights range from $6,900 to $26,800 per flight hour. Costs cover the plane, fuel, crew, security, onboard medical staff, and all aviation fees. Funding, though, may not be a barrier. ICE received more than $75 billion in the president's recent spending bill, including $30 billion for deportation efforts alone.
All right, so here's an ongoing topic here about these detention facilities, because we see what's happening, with this push on the Northern Kingdom, soon to move towards the Southern Kingdom, starting with the Alligator Alcatraz, and then the Speedway Slammer, and then Trump making the announcement about federalizing DC, which is underway right now, and saying that he wants to push it outwards to other places like NYC somewhere in Cali, Chicago, Ohio or something like that, some other places there. And then you had him make the speech about the cleaning up the ghettos, the slums from graffiti and stuff like that, which was, code talk for "I'm coming for you, Southern Kingdom Israelites" next. Okay, and then he made the I think it might have been the same speech or a different one. He said so much, okay, about hoping that other states are hearing the message so that they can clean up the streets, because if not, we're going to come there. Pretty much he's saying that we're going to come there and federalize your states too. Now, of course, you have those there, a few that are against that, but I believe we talked about that the other day. There's like 6 states who's on his federalization and stuff like that, cracking down. Okay, and so those states that are with it are to send troops there to DC to help out. And so, should the focus shift to their state, what does that mean? That they be welcome for Trump to federalize their state and so-called clean up their streets from homelessness. And basically, they're basically saying clean up the streets from these Israelites, man, because they try to paint us all to be wicked. Meanwhile, Edom's the most wicked man on the planet. Okay, so you see all these things in the works and turning in the wheel, in the cogwheel. But these are all things stirred up by the Heavenly Father according to His prophecy, because His word is His prophecies, and we're watching His prophecy be fulfilled with them coming into fruition. And so here we have, as we mentioned, you have Alligator Alcatraz, now you have the Speedway Slammer, and now you have this here, which I believe is a few days old, but I'm just now seeing it, so it's fresh news to me. It's called the Cornhusker Clink. All right, so Nebraska announces plan for immigration detention center dubbed the Cornhusker Clink, and as we mentioned, these centers are going to keep popping up over and over and over till they're all over the states. Okay. And it's not going to, at some point, they're not going to just be for deportation anymore, because there's a clip talking about them starting to have their own flights specifically for deportation. Okay, so that's crazy. But yeah, sooner or later, it's going to come, because once the Lord really unleashes Jacob's trouble and there's chaos, these facilities aren't going to have time to just be deporting people and throwing them on flights. Okay, they're going to be locking people up. All right, people are gonna probably get put to death and never make it to the lockup or whatever. Okay, but these centers, these detention centers, these camps are going to be all over the states, because they're going to be housing individuals like you Israelites, whether you're rebellious or you're fearful of the Lord, because these are the times of Jacob's trouble. And also, there's going to be housing regular other citizens of the different nations who are here living in Babylon, because eventually they're going to come against them too. Because, there's going to be some who's going to buck up and say, no, I don't want this. I don't want your system and your devices. And, oh, this is wrong. And, all the protests and things. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy. But the main play, as we always speak, is always against the Israelites. OK, so it says Nebraska announces plan for immigration detention center dubbed the Cornhusker Clink. There's some pictures there. Some people. ICE equals Gestapo. You see that? So it says Nebraska announced plans Tuesday for an immigration detention center in the remote southwest corner of the state as President Donald Trump's administration races to expand the infrastructure necessary for increasing deportations. All right, so they want to increase deportations and get these Israelites up out of here while we can, and then we're gonna further expedite that by getting them personal flights that are dedicated only to deporting these people here. Okay, the facility will be dubbed Cornhusker Clink, a play on Nebraska's nickname of the Cornhusker State. And as I said the other day, man, they're making mockery of you Israelites right in front of you. They have the alligator Alcatraz. They used alligators and crocodiles back in the ancient days to persecute us and put us to death and things of that nature. Alligator Alcatraz. Okay, and I'm pretty sure they probably have some form of torture by snakes too, but the main thing was the alligators. Then they have the Speedway Slammer, okay, and they named that after the raceway there, and they mocked you with that by putting ice on the side of a so-called Mexican race car, man, and posted that and then took it down. And now they have Cornhusker Clink. Then they're mocking you, okay? I played the other day. I don't think I got a strike on it because I'm still able to upload. but they gave me one of those copyright things of a video that I played at the end, which was of South Park. And they were mocking you in South Park, laughing. And, you know, this crazy chick, Noam they had in there, shooting dogs, right? Because that's what they think about you. They think that you're just dogs, worthless people, you know, what is 1/5 or 2/5 of a man, something like that, whatever. You get the point. They think of you Israelites as low, okay? Psalms the 83rd chapter. You can't screen that chapter enough, because these are all your enemies, and they all came together with one consent. They, you know, to cut you off and be a nation, that the name of Israel shall be no more remembrance. And then they took it a step further by trying to wipe out the name of your power, Yahweh, and the only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, to keep you perpetually in the state that you're in, because they don't want you to win. Okay, and we always talk about as it goes back to their birthright. Okay, and that's just between Jacob and Esau, but even the other nations don't want you to rule over them. But according to prophecy, that's going to happen. Let's keep going. It says the facility will be dubbed the Cornhusker Clink, a play on Nebraska's nickname of the Cornhusker State, and an old slang term for what? For jail. Come on, man. Who's mostly in jail? Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Yeah, other nations are there because, you know, that's just the system. But what was it formulated for? Okay, the whole judicial system was formulated around and against you. The alliterative name follows in the vein of the previously announced. You see, there you go. Alligator Alcatraz. They're mocking you, man. How many times we have to say it? It says in deportation depot. Yep, we talked about that the other day. We just did a lesson on that. Deportation depot. I forgot about that. You see, they're mocking you, man. Okay, detention centers in Florida and the Speedway Slammer in Indiana. See, they're all listed here. You can't tell me that they're not mocking you, man. Okay, because they know who you are. But you who refuse to wake up and understand who you are and why these things are happening to you are thinking that, oh, these people are just, oh, this is not fair. It is fair. You transgress the covenant of the Lord. Wake up and understand who you are as a people, and you'll see just how fair it is. But then you actually have to accept that fairness, that these things were happening to you because you went against the Lord's covenant, and it's now time for you to return. Okay, I might actually get I'll get that. I read that the other day as we finish this. Republican Governor Jim Pillen said he and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, just mentioned that chick, had agreed to use an existing minimum security prison work camp in McCook, a remote city of about 7,000 people in the middle of the wide open prairies between Denver and Omaha. Yeah, leave you in the open land, so if you try to get away, if you're able to escape, well, it ain't gonna be hard to find you. Okay, to how like in the slavery days, they would put the yokes on their neck and they had the long, you know, spikes coming out of it, so you get caught up in the brushes and the thickets and the trees and stuff like that. And a dog come chew on you to master find you. He probably stay right there and get a few laughs for a couple more minutes before he says, all right, get the dog so you won't kill him and stake him back. Then you get punished again, and then you're spent right back out there to the fields to work, man. Okay. It says to house people awaiting deportation and being held for other immigration proceedings. It's expected to be a Midwest hub for detainees from several states. See, a Midwest hub. So you know, people from several states, all right, are eventually gonna, you know, and this is just one of many places, but I'm just making the point, all right, because it says a hub. So, you know, a lot of people are going to be flowing into this place, all right, to be held and eventually deported or whatever else may happen to them. This is about keeping Nebraskans and Americans across. Wow, light it up. Haven't done that in a while. Light it up. Light it up. As a matter of fact, let's just get the key word there. This is about keeping Nebraskans and Americans across our country safe. You can't tell me it's not mockery, man. Now, there are the degenerates of us, but what I'm making is the point is, how did Esau get this country, man? What do? They lied, they raped, they robbed, they stole, they killed, man. But we have to be kept safe from these people. Well, who's going to keep us safe from Esau? See, in the scriptures, herein lies the question. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. If you choose to return to him and you have the hedge of protection. So there you go. Pillen said in the statement. And actually, there's a little more. There's a facility can accommodate 200 people with plans to expand to 300. McCook is about 210 miles west of Lincoln, the state capital. If you are in America illegally, you could find yourself in Nebraska's Cornhusker Clink. Avoid arrest and self-deport now using the CBP. We talked about that. Hold on, it jumped on me. All this stuff popped up. Yeah, they done knocked me out of it. Yeah, all of a sudden all these ads pop up. Let me see. Okay, here we go. So yeah, we talked about that the other day. The home app, all right, the self-deportation app. And remember, there was a point where they said that all right, my apologies, they kicked me out. But let's go back because I was reading this. It says Noam's agency. I was making a good point here. Noam's agency posted a picture on social media showing ears of corn wearing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement hats standing in front of a prison fence. Come on, man. And that's why I was just speaking about mockery, 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 mockery. Okay, because these people, they are pushing against you tribesmen. Okay. Now we're not going to read down because this article goes, all the way down there. I'm going to finish this up here. See what this says, though. The governor said later at a news conference in McCook that the center will have the advantage of being located at an existing facility and near a regional airport. Yeah, because I read about that the other day. One of these places has an airport like 15 minutes away. So when we're ready to deport you, it ain't going to be long from the center to the plane to get you out of here. Okay. It says he told reporters he didn't know if the center would house women as well as men or if children could be held there. He said he first learned the federal government was interested in the facility on Friday. Pillen also announced he would order the Nebraska National Guard to provide administrative and logistical support to Nebraska-based immigration agents. About 20 soldiers would be involved, and he said the Nebraska State Patrol would allow 6 troopers to help federal immigration agents make arrests. Now, I want to click on this to see if we can see that picture. Oh, I don't have an X account. We may not be able to see it. Okay, there you go. All right, coming soon, the Cornhusker Clink. There you go. And that's what I got my thing up for. Snap that, okay? Coming soon to Nebraska, Cornhusker Clink. Today, we're announcing a new partnership with the state of Nebraska to expand detention bed space by 280 beds, okay? And you can't tell me that they're not laughing at you Israelites, man. And meanwhile, you have the prophet saying, hey, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, they're slowly forcing their hand upon you. And it's going to get worse to the point where they're going to start to put some of these people to death, maybe torture you, behead you, because that's all part of the scriptures, right? Okay, so we're warning you, Israelites, to return back to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, repent, because this is one thing. And these things that you constantly see happening, those are low level. Okay, when the devil is finally let loose with that great wrath, okay, he's going to show you exactly why he's the devil, man. He's going to show his horns and his fangs, and, he's going to use every weapon in his arsenal against you, man, because he hates you Israelites. So, yeah, I wanted to get into that because, as we said, these facilities are going to continue popping up. They're going to be all over America, and eventually they're going to be opened up, for Jacob's trouble, okay? They're already opened up now, so what more in Jacob's trouble when they need to send people away to be housed, and they're going to be overcrowded? When you think they're going to be deporting people from overcrowdedness? No. They're going to be putting people to death. They're going to be cutting people's heads off, man. Right here in these states, see, where you think you have freedom. So I'm going to leave it at that. Lord willing, you will edify to next thing. Shalom.
A new ICE facility being called the Cornhusker Clink is opening in Nebraska, and residents we spoke with seem optimistic but still curious. The new facility will be in the town of McCook. The site is located at an already operational work ethic camp and will expand ICE detention space in the area by 280 beds. Today, the state of Nebraska is stepping up its support of President Trump's and Secretary Noem's immigration enforcement initiatives in several key ways, Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen said. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem praised the governor and the state. The money for this new facility comes from the recent budget bill passed by the Trump administration. As part of this development, local Nebraska law enforcement will now also take a bigger role in policing immigrants.
And it's a way to keep people in this community safe, keep people in Nebraska safe. That's what people like myself and people that will be working out there will be ensuring is the safety of the community and the safety of people in Nebraska and in the whole country.
Others within the department still have some questions.
With the fact that illegal don't have any address on file, supposedly, whenever they get released, where do they go? Do we make arrangements to send them wherever they want to go? Do we send them outside of the United States if the judge thinks that they can be in the country? Now, if they are found not guilty and they have to be released, where do we send them?
People in the community also have some questions about the plan.
We're trying to get more information so we know how we as a community need to position ourselves, how we can be both accommodating and prepared for whatever lies in store for what's happening out at the Work Ethic Camp.
While questions may linger, others are excited for what this facility will mean to the state of Nebraska.
The other way, I think it will bring a good impact on the business parts, whereby it will influence a movement of people in this town. There will be facilitators who will be working here. It will bring in more workers into town.
This facility follows other new alliterative detention centers like Alligator Alcatraz and the Deportation Depot in Florida.